What up, hogs? Give up on your academic dreams immediately, because the only league you'll be able to attend now is of Legends. The certifications are made up, and the education you get doesn't matter. We might not be able to have nice things anymore, but we can always have Super Despair World.
All right. Welcome to the show. This is Super Despair World, and if you like this show and you want to support us, go to superdespairworld.com and find out where you can do that. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/superdespairworld where you can donate a sinister $6 or more and join our Discord and get some bonus episodes, which you're all really gonna love. And we also have a merch store, merch.superdespairworld.com, where you can get some stickers and other cool stuff like that. So, yeah, get in there and have a great time.
I've been trying to make a little chart or something of all the places that we can confirm there are Super Despair World stickers out in like the US, just like based on like photos people have taken in our Discord. So far, I can confirm there are some Super Despair World stickers out in the wild in both New York and Michigan. I think there might be a third state I'm forgetting, but that's very exciting.
Yeah, pretty soon, it's gonna be global. We're dropping those bitches everywhere, just like propaganda pamphlets in North Korea or something like that.
Did you ever hear the story about how Red Bull, the energy drink, got started as like a marketing project or whatever?
Well, no, not really.
From what I heard, they basically gave a bunch of like people who go to like big fucking like clubs or whatever in big cities. They just had them walk into the club with an empty can and just put like empty cans of Red Bull on the table to make people think, oh, this is like the hip new drink that everybody's drinking at these clubs. Where like, no, people just like littered the fucking cans everywhere, and it worked. It fucking worked.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's like putting people in the windows of like coffee shops and shit to make it look like people love patronizing this place, when really they're just plants. Everything's fake. It's like
the bit in Home Alone where the kid puts all the fucking cardboard cutouts on the railroad track and they just like make it look like a big fucking party is happening behind the windows.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Number one, to keep intruders away, because I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, so I'm very scared. And also, if anybody I know walks by, they're going to think, wow, what a cool and popular guy, he's having a party.
Have I ever talked on the show about how sometimes, like, at like 11 or 12 p.m. at night or some shit, I will just, like, with the lights off in my living room, kind of like stand menacingly by the window just in case somebody's watching me and like they'll see my outline and like freak the fuck out. It makes me feel like I am the knight, like I am Batman, and I'm like cool and intimidating. Did I ever talk about this?
But that's one way of thinking about it. But really, somebody's gonna walk by and just be like, what a fucking weirdo, just standing in the window in the dark, just staring.
Yeah, well, joke's on them, because I live in the fucking woods and they'll be standing in the woods, and that's weirder than whatever I'm doing.
Hey, we tell all these kids to touch grass, and then you're going to say it's weird to stand in the woods. Come on. Pick a lane.
Look, there's a time and a place. Never mind. This has been haunting me a little bit since last week. The last episode we did was number 64, and at no point in that episode did I reference the little video of the kids opening the fucking Nintendo 64, shouting like Nintendo 64. I don't know. That's just lived with me ever since then, and I regret not bringing it up.
Yeah. Well, I put it in the little TV. If you watch or listen to this on YouTube,
I've never listened to our own show. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I have once in a while. It's all right. It's an all right show.
Yeah, all right. Enough beating around the bush. I feel like we had to establish a few good vibes because this might otherwise be a very depressing episode today. Um, Maybe to get us started off with, this was intentionally meant to be an episode about some stuff happening in the news recently, specifically about, I think it was like a bunch of foreign students going to Harvard. They're not taking any more foreign students at Harvard. All foreigners are like banned in universities or some shit now. I don't know. I don't really follow the news. This is not really a news show. And part of the reason behind that is like I've been looking at some headlines earlier, and just to put things into perspective, it's like, okay, headline 2 days ago, Trump team pauses new student visa interviews as it weighs expanding social media vetting. 1 day ago, Trump says Harvard should cap foreign students at 15%. 7 hours ago, judge blocks Trump administration's foreign student ban at Harvard. Okay, shit happens way too fucking fast. This is why we're not a news show, but I did kind of want to talk more broadly about like education and why things are a little bit fucked up right now in this episode.
Yeah. Well, to preface this, things have been pretty fucked up in education and higher education specifically for quite a while now. Yeah, the university system has never been great, but it's been on I don't want to say a slow decline. It's been on a pretty rapid decline in the
Especially
past,
recently.
yeah, especially recently. But yeah, I mean, like exponentially getting worse since I was in college, and it was never really that great to begin with. But yeah, I mean, and we could talk about so with this. With this whole issue, the ones we're hearing about at least are the Ivy Leagues, specifically Harvard, and I think Yale as well. And I feel bad for these Ivy League universities. They've had it too hard for too long, and now they're getting harassed by Orange Man, who is bad, by the way, if you didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really rough. So like we've talked a little bit about education before, and like viewers of the show are no strangers to like how the schools are kind of fucked up, how maybe it's bad that we kind of just treat this as like a for-profit thing where you go and spend a lot of money to get a little bit of paper saying you're allowed to be employed in like slightly less shit-ass jobs if you're lucky or something. I don't know. I feel like that entire social contract has kind of fallen apart over the last however many years. And of course, things have only gotten worse. I was last in college around it was 2019 when I dropped out, and since then it's like, okay, they had the whole COVID thing and everything shut down. They had the whole fucking boom in people using AI to like do all their homework or whatever, and now we've got all these like fucking insane crackdowns related to like various different like social issue protests. I know which ones. We'll get into it later. And it feels like, I don't know, on the one hand, I don't want to look at something like the Ivy League schools, which I think exists basically to just like stratify people into like, oh, you went to this school, you get to be part of the elite, maybe, whatever. I don't know. Yeah. I don't really like the Ivy League schools. I don't want to defend them, but at the same time, I look at the attacks going on towards these schools right now, and it's like, okay, maybe it's Harvard today, but it'll be like plenty of other schools tomorrow, later this week, maybe in a few hours, maybe right now while we're recording and I'm not looking at the news right this second. And it's like, okay, we have to like draw a line here, like, okay, maybe these schools kind of suck ass, but I do think maybe we shouldn't let our ire towards them for being like a flawed system get in the way of us thinking, okay, this is like an attack on universities and education as a whole, and that's pretty fucking bad, and it kind of scares me a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, fuck Harvard, but also
fuck people who go to Harvard. I don't care. I think they're probably all assholes. I don't like defending these students, but also like you kind of have to. I don't know. I feel like the thing that always pulls me back from whenever I'm feeling a little bit reactionary is like, okay, Briar, I have to coexist with people who I think are kind of fucking annoying, like college students, but still.
Yeah, well, the student, when you're that young, you don't know any better. It's their parents and the whole system that they that they live in. But yeah, I mean, to your previous point, that is kind of how these institutions exist. It's really just kind of a like an in-group, out-group thing. And I don't know, maybe you could weasel your way into Harvard or something like that through pure merit. But really, a lot of it is like how you do on standard, like college entrance exams and your extracurriculars and shit like that. And a lot of that comes down to class at the end of the day. You can't be a complete, well, I was going to say you can't be a complete idiot and go to an Ivy League school, but we all know that's not true.
There are many different types of intelligence. I think about this often. Who was the one guy? I think he died of COVID or some shit like that. He was like a black doctor guy who was part of like the first Trump administration a couple of years ago. It was like, yeah, he was just some like right-wing chud dipshit, but he was also like a world-renowned like fucking brain surgeon or something.
Herman Cain?
Herman Cain, I want to say that. I'm pretty sure. Watch it be like some other guy, and everybody's like, oh my god, the show's so racist, they can't tell them apart. I don't know. I don't think about these people.
You mean Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Oh god, can you imagine if fucking Neil deGrasse Tyson became like an out-and-out like Trump guy?
Yeah, anyways, whatever. Yeah, Herman Cain.
I just think Mexicans are the least logical minority to have in the country.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what he sounds like.
I don't know. Herman Cain was he was a Black Voices for Trump guy. I don't know. Fuck politics. I'm done with this shit.
I don't know. This whole thing is dumb, but the point was like, oh yeah, you could have this guy who was like, by all accounts, a brilliant like brain surgeon or whatever, but like you look at his politics, you look at him talk on a stage, it's like, wow, this is one of the dumbest fucking people that's ever lived. He maybe just has like, I don't know, a specific kind of autism that makes him really good at brain surgery or some shit. I don't know. Brains are weird. That some people are just like that. I don't know.
And that's kind of the thing, is that's cool to be good at being a brain surgeon. The problem with STEM genius types is they tend to think that they're very, very hyper specific and very hyper focused, skill or training in or aptitude in one realm, kind of translates to being smart in other avenues, which is definitely not the case. So.
I mean, the thing with those guys is basically that they think like, oh, everything's actually just like a computer, and I'm good at computers, so that means everybody else is just like a less sentient life form than I am or whatever. And like, I don't know, that's just become like the heart of the fucking modern far right movement or whatever.
Yeah, that's what the Big Bang Theory is all about. I'm pretty sure. I never watched the show, but that's what, in my mind, that's what I imagine.
The Big Bang Theory was like originally a weird incel plan to get laid exactly once and have it be a very explosive.
Oh, yeah. That's true. You're right.
I don't actually ever remember what it is like the guy's catchphrase in The Big Bang Theory is, because
Bazinga.
I know Bazinga, right. In my head, my mind just immediately jumps to Zimbabwe, which is like the weird like joke that everybody makes about it. But anyway, I just never remember that.
I've never heard that before, so everybody must not be making that joke.
It's like Bazinga becomes Zabinga becomes Zimbabwe. I don't know, never mind. Fucking the internet is dumb, okay?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Yeah, I think you're spending too much time on Blue Sky. That sounds like a Blue Sky joke.
To be fair, I think that was like a Tumblr joke from like 8 years ago. I think I'm showing my age.
Well, there you go. That's the Tumblr crowd is now on Blue Sky for sure.
I think the Tumblr crowd is on antidepressants these days, but
probably.
Hopefully. Anyway, where were we going with this?
Well, you were talking about Herman Cain for some reason. I don't know why.
Right. I guess the point is, there's a lot of different kinds of intelligence, and like people can be really dumb in some ways and really smart in others. And that's kind of like the thing about college students, right? I don't really like to defend them. I think, by and large, in the last couple of years when I was in university, right, I looked at like the kids who were like fresh out of high school or whatever, like sitting across from me in the cafeteria, and I'm like, oh, these are a bunch of like weird, like unevolved little apes, and I don't belong here. I should have gotten out of this place a long time ago. And as much as, you know, as much as we can point to like real legitimate problems with like the university system, or like how college students, you know, their hearts are in the right place. They're not always the smartest people. Some of them make very unwise decisions, like, oh, I'm gonna own Ben Shapiro when he has like the podium and the microphone and gets to just say whatever. I don't know. Regardless of all that, you know, I do think the institution of education is really important. And I look at, you know, I think a lot of people are a little bit gleeful right now, on both sides of the aisle, frankly, that like the whole system is kind of like burning down and falling apart. But like when you look past that, I feel like, oh, I don't think there's actually going to be anything to replace it soon. I think we're headed towards a very dark immediate future where education just like isn't really a thing anymore, at least in the US, and I'm kind of worried about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I try not to be an accelerationist, but it was kind of going this way anyways. Without massive reforms, it's like, so my thing is, since I was you know, like in high school, even the whole idea of like, you know, go to college and get a degree and it's worth whatever you pay for it and it helps you out in life, that shit was already over.
That was the social contract, and like I think a lot of us still believed it back then. I sure as fuck believed it. I went to university. I paid a lot of money for stuff I got nothing out of, and yeah, and that sucks.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, that's whatever. That I mean, that sucks, but it's kind of a symptom of like an overeducated society where everybody like goes to college, and it's like you can't, it's not like the bar raises. Then it's like if everybody goes to college and then with the degree is kind of, it's just like high school diploma version 2.
It's like we
whatever.
can't all fucking be administrators. Some people need to be the person who is administrated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then we did that, and then it's like learn to code, and then it's learn to weld and whatever, and we just keep wavering. Basically, the whole system doesn't work, and it's. But that's besides the point. Even if it was that, and it's the whole economic and getting a job thing is the problem, I don't really give a fuck, because that's a separate problem. And obviously fucking school should not cost what it does. It's fucking ridiculous. But again, that's another problem. But the one that people don't really talk about as much as the like, I can't get a job even though I got a degree. I have 2 degrees and it costs a lot of money and I'm poor now. Sure, like that sucks. But here's the real thing. On top of those 2 problems, which are completely economic based, the quality of the education that you get from these places fucking sucks. It's shit, and it was not great when I was an undergrad, and I recently did a master's program just for shits and giggles, you know. And holy shit, what a fucking waste of time. The fucking higher education is so bad now. It's like it's really just like you would get more out of like YouTube and a library card, honestly, because it's the same shit. Like, we don't need this thing anymore. And now it's to the point where literally the only thing you're getting out of this is a piece of paper that says you did this. It's pretty fucked.
Yeah, one of the really amusing sentiments I've seen shared on the internet for a while, which is my wordy way of saying memes. One of my favorite memes is people pointing out like, oh, business students will sit in class for like 2 hours and just see like they on the board the professor has written profit equals revenue minus cost, as if like this is like some brilliant fucking thing that these like future like financial leaders of society need to really put their nose to the grindstone to learn. It's like, oh wow, a lot of stuff, especially in the fucking business financial sector, is like basically fucking remedial level math with like a few buzzwords stapled on top of it. Not that I'm one to talk, of course. You know, I originally went to university to get a fucking fine arts degree, which I know it really fucking dumb. Don't need it. But you know, I never finished that, and you know, that's one of the clearest examples of like, oh yeah, nowadays you really can just learn to do all of that bullshit online. And like I really think, you know, that's one of those fields where your work really matters more than just having a dumb fucking piece of paper. But the problem is, you know, we've been telling hundreds of millions of people for however many decades, you know, just go to school, just do 18 years of education and get this piece of paper and you'll have a good life. And that's like not been the case for a long time. But now
no,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, but now it's even worse because I think, you know, we kind of live in the age where like the euphemism is over. I feel like everybody's going mask off now. There's no like subtlety to politics and like social issues anymore. Everybody's just like openly fed posting and saying whatever like mean, nasty, disgusting thoughts cross into their minds. You know, that's not necessarily a left or right thing. You know, I'm certainly guilty of telling people to do some very mean things on the internet, but you know, that's the way things are now. Everything's just like out in the open, and I think people being openly disillusioned with the state of college, I think it's you know, that's why we're in this accelerationist turn now. I think there isn't really a way to get out of this other than like going forward, right? But in the like fucking inevitable collapse of this system, I don't think there's anything being set up to replace it. I think at least in America, right? I look at all the fucking things going on with higher education and laws being used to fucking persecute students for having the wrong like political views or whatever, and I think it's just gonna get a lot worse. I think I don't know, I think some dark times are ahead, and I don't know what to do about it right now.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we're all fed up. Like everybody except for the most isolated people, which are either the sinister like super upper crust, and then the like everything is fine as long as Obama's in office and passes
everybody
law that placates me, gated community liberal types.
Yeah, everybody except the literal like cigar smoking old men in boardrooms who are like puppeteering society or whatever.
Yeah, but like, I mean, fundamentally, the idea, like, even though we both said, you know, you could learn all this shit on your own and stuff, it's like, well, I mean, it would be cool to have schools and higher education where you have a community, you're held accountable, you have mentors around you. You have places you can meet people and study and stuff like that, and that's what it should be. But like now, it's getting the point where, like, especially like online education. Like I took some online classes, and like, it is so fucking pointless. You're just watching like some shit that a professor recorded like a year and a half ago. And then like you just submit some shit on a forum. There's like discussion posts where like people just do the bare minimum like bullshit like responses to yes, I agree with that I liked your point, that, and then they just like copy and paste a sentence that you
I'm
did.
so
it's
guilty.
like,
I participate in so many of those dumb fucking forums.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I really don't want to give credit to this guy. Don't take this as me praising a certain streamer. This is me saying the education system is worse than that. But I feel like, you know, I've done a little bit of the online school thing before, and it's like maybe the system really fucking sucks when this like whole online class is less engaging than being a chatter in a fucking Asmongold stream. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And also like half of these professors are adjuncts because they don't want to pay for faculty anymore. So like they have another job and this is like their side gig, and like they do what they can. So some of them, and
If you're lucky.
and yeah, if you're lucky, and it's just like this is the fact that people are still paying thousands of dollars like per semester for these classes. It's fucking bullshit, man. It's fucking ridiculous. And
We've like hollowed out the whole like class of like educators or whatever and replaced it with like a fucking gig economy thing of like adjuncts that are just fill in whenever they have the free time.
And it's like anything else. This is just the distillation of the inshitification of everything into its like most base components, where it's just a shell of itself with none of the original like intention or thing that made it good or useful in the first place, to save a couple bucks. But everybody's just like, well, that's how it is now. I mean, that's like school now. And some people don't know any better, but for some of us who have seen shit change before, it's just like, well, I mean, social media used to be fun, and now it's just like ads and bots and like people fucking molding. But like, I
don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I feel like social media has always been dog shit, but I say that as somebody who grew up on like actual internet forums or whatever, which I don't think are social media. I think that was a different earlier internet thing, and I had a lot of fun with that. I think the whole move towards social media has been a weird, like, I don't know, it just feels like, I remember being in high school around the time Facebook was getting really popular outside of like just universities or something, and I was like, it's weird that this online service like really wants me to use my real name and share all this information or whatever. Because like I grew up back in the time where it was like, oh, never reveal anything about yourself on the internet. The internet is all bullshit. We were all kind of aware that this is like just some goofy, not real thing we're all participating in. And I don't know. I just don't really like the way that the world has ended up being shaped since then by the deliberate decisions of a few like motherfuckers like Steve Bannon and Mark Zuckerberg,
Sure, but I mean, they were better before. They were tolerable before. Now,
sure,
I'm completely,
it's gotten worse over time, undisputably.
Yeah, a steady decline with a steep drop off. And just like with what we're talking about with education,
we started at the bottom and then we started digging.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about this, and it's very tempting for me, especially because this is the whole education thing is something that I fucking old man yells at cloud rant about fucking constantly, just because it's so bad, like to its core. But just seeing how much worse it's getting, it's very tempting to just say, yeah, fuck it, burn it all down. The problem is, like how it's being burnt down. This is not slash and burn agriculture, which with the sole intention of clearing land and like fertilizing the soil so that we can plant anew and start from the beginning. It's to salt the earth and just destroy everything and put nothing of value in its place except for like just fucking a pile of dog shit. A pile of dog shit, not cow shit, because cow shit would be good manure. It's dog shit from which nothing can grow. And I've tested this because I have a hole that I put dog shit in, and the flowers won't grow on it.
I come from a long line of people who have worked with the land and putting shit into the land, and I can confirm that that's what happens when you put dog shit in a hole.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
But the thing I was gonna say a couple things, right? You brought up the phrase accelerationism earlier, and for a long time I always thought accelerationism feels like a little bit of a meme thing on the internet. At least for many years, I only ever heard it in the context of like some weird like Lenin 1488 poster on Twitter being like, maybe we should just make capitalism much worse, and then my society can rise up from the ashes or whatever. It's like, okay, it's fucking crank shit. But I legit feel like nowadays, like, oh, we don't really have a choice in whether or not the whole acceleration thing happens. I feel like it's happening. I feel like the decision has been made for us, and now we kind of just have to live with the consequences. There were a few things I wanted to read here. There was a really like disturbing line in like the big fucking like letter memo whatever from the government about like shutting down the fucking foreign student visa interviews for Harvard. There was a line from everybody's favorite like modern day Joseph Goebbels, fucking Nazi in office, Stephen Miller. He says here that this was specifically about a judge saying they can't fucking block foreign students or whatever. Stephen Miller says the ruling is madness, and we don't want to allow communists from foreign nations into our country to poison our campuses with Marxist ideas. And then another thing, I'm a little out of order here, from the original letter, it was saying something about consequences must follow to send a clear signal to Harvard and all universities that want to enjoy the privilege of enrolling foreign students that the Trump administration will enforce the law and root out the evil of anti-Americanism and anti-Semitism in society and campuses. And like, man, we live in some dark fucking times. Like, I have my issues with the university system, but I feel like we're getting to the point now, just like a few months into this administration, where it's like, oh yeah, it's time to like ideologically root out our enemies from these institutions and just like kick them to the curb, or like literally send them to El Salvador or some shit to die in a fucking death camp. I don't know. Pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, Stephen Miller is such a weird dude. He really looks like he would be the actor who plays like the shitty, like just gross like villain type in any movie that he's in, just because he has just such an unlikable aura about him. Yeah, I but yeah, it is really funny how it's such like grandstanding too. Like I mean, just saying words like. Does anyone who is not like a complete like X.com weird crank take this dude seriously?
I don't know. I feel like, the decision's kind of made for us. I feel like we kind of have to take him seriously because in a lot of ways it kind of feels like Stephen Miller might be like the evil dark vizier puppeteering the president from behind the scenes, kind of like what Dick Cheney was with like George Bush, except, I think Stephen Miller in a lot of ways is just like a million times worse. He's like, I don't know, some like weirdly easy to draw but like hard to work out how fucking like rotten his soul is kind of person. I don't know. I think in every way, Stephen Miller is a piece of shit, and I just think, okay, when we start busting out the language about like the evil of anti-Americanism must be rooted out from society, I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Are we gonna start like ideologically like punishing people for believing the wrong things? But then
yes.
yes we are, but
yes,
but
we
also
are.
As I finish saying those words aloud, I'm like, okay, it is pretty bad now because like things are very mask off, but then I look at like literally the entire history of the United States and it's like, yeah, this is pretty par for the course. I guess I just have to like come to terms with the fact that I'm living in like whatever we end up calling this. This is, I don't know, in a lot of ways I think this is basically like a new fucking McCarthy era that we're all going through at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and it's just whatever they deem like bad. Now, yeah, communism always been a thing, always been a no word in America. That's one of the reasons they don't like universities, because they're a bunch of damn postmodern communism. Liberal. I don't even remember what. It's been so long since I since I saw old JP. I don't even remember
Did
what he
did you
sounds
see the
like.
recent? He did like some fucking Jubilee video. It was like 20 atheists debate one Christian, but then they like changed the video title because he wouldn't actually admit if he was a Christian or not.
Yeah, I saw some like clips recommended to me on YouTube, and I was just like, I can't, I can't, I don't want to watch this. But
Trust me when I say this one, it was kind of funny to see him get very mad, but like there's never a vacant hole in your life that would be better filled with a fucking Jubilee video ever.
yeah, I think we should just let this dude fall into obscurity. As much as I like owning the Chuds, this dude like totally lost his shit and most of his relevance a while ago. Just doing the like epic debated with facts and logic thing with a guy who's like clearly just not even on the like Ben Shapiro level. The dude's just like clear. You're arguing with like a dude shouting at the wall in an alley somewhere.
I mean, the thing is, right, it's been part of the conservative playbook to just, like, argue with college kids because they're dumb and don't know any better and don't have media training. And this fucking Jubilee video was just, like, Jordan Peterson not even being able to win against, like, a bunch of college kids. So,
yeah,
like, okay,
that's what I heard.
he's
so
done.
that is pretty funny. But, yeah.
It's always really tempting to call like people I don't like, especially like right wingers or whatever, like brain addled or brain damaged or they have the brain rot or something. But like in the case of JP, I am actually pretty sure he suffered like severe brain damage with his fucking like, weird drug detox thing. So
yeah, no, he's done. He's done. I mean, yeah, a lot of these other dudes. I mean, they have a different type of deep brain poison, but that guy is like actually just like unwell. It's not a dunk to win an epic debate with that
JP
guy.
is fucking everywhere at the end of time right now. He's at the part of the album where it's just a bunch of noise. if you know if you get that reference.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. He's yeah, we just need to let that track play out and then change the album. Let it end. Bye, Jordan. It was fun.
Is it oversharing to say that I actually can't listen to that album? Something about the whole topic of like degenerative brain diseases is just, I don't know, it's a little upsetting for me. I actually can't listen to that shit front to back.
Yeah. I mean, I get that for sure. Kids these days, they don't listen to albums anymore. It's just top 50 Spotify chill playlist to vibe to vape to.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what like the entire education system has become. I feel like when I was talking earlier about this whole like, oh, we live in the times where like there's the death of the euphemism. We've kind of like given up on all pretenses of like the oh, some guy just drove really loud by my house.
I heard that.
I was saying we've kind of given up on these pretenses of like, oh, that there's a broader point, that there's some meaning to all these like dumb little tasks and these dumb little like hoops that we have to jump through, and there really isn't. I feel like we said before, I don't blame people who are in college now who just use like ChatGPT to write their fucking essays
without
or something.
question.
Because like, who am I to like lecture these people like, you're actually robbing yourself of something, of a really important lesson in writing this like shit ass essay about some shit you don't actually care about, when it's like, no, you're in this university to get a paper so you can like get that bag and not live the rest of your life in fucking poverty. Who am I to like give these people shit?
Exactly, and that's the thing. And I've seen all this bullshit, all these opinion pieces and all these news articles, and they're like, oh, chat GPT in schools is such a problem because whatever, and like, how do we deal with this? The AI detector. There are no AI detectors. They don't work. And okay, like, you're gonna make them write essays in class. Okay, cool, whatever. You people are you're missing the point. You're missing the point of this altogether. And as much as I fucking hate AI bullshit and I hate what these people are doing and just everyone's, it's just like, what this is doing, I guess, silver lining in a sense, and I'll get back to this, is it's showing the cracks and the fundamental problems in this system. Is like, okay, yeah, 20 years ago, they had to write an essay, or like they could copy and paste from Wikipedia, but like that's easy to check or whatever. But like the thing is, like, why do people want to cheat? Why do they not give a fuck about any of this? Why is everybody just phoning it in? And it's just like you said before, because this isn't about learning. This isn't about being better, being smarter, and getting good at writing or learning mathematics. Or
nobody believes in the joke anymore that you go to university to become a more well-rounded person. Like, that doesn't put fucking food on the table. Nobody gives a fuck how well-rounded you are.
Exactly, and they should, because like all of this like matters, and it does make you like just overall smarter if you're. And
to be clear, by the way, I do care very much how well-rounded certain ladies in my life are.
Yes, the feeder comes back.
Yeah.
But like, but that's the thing, is like, it's very clear now that this is just a system that makes you wake up at a certain time, come here, do the tasks, do what you're told, fill in the blanks, do blah blah blah, and it's like. And it's such a trite point of like, wake up, I'm a robot, I do all this stuff, and it's like, this was like edgy, kind of like Gen X, like against the system shit back in the 90s.
I mean, that was like the counterculture I grew up in my whole life. I remember being a teenager and I was like, whoa, maybe people shouldn't conform to the majority. Maybe we should think for ourselves. And like back then, I do think that was actually a little bit subversive. But it's like, I don't know. Maybe we need to change how we talk about these things for the modern times a little bit.
Yeah, and I agree. But also, like, I've seen the pushback on this, and there's people now, and they're just like, in those days, it was like people were mad because they had a boring job that paid the bills, but it wasn't fulfilling. I wish I had that. And it's like, no, you don't. That's not the point. It's not like we should like regress back to this shit because like you had more money for goodies. Like you're everybody's missing the point here. It's like, this has always been bullshit, but we could make it better instead of just like, now the cracks are showing, so like let's just fill in the cracks because I want a job. And it's like, nah, man, like fucking and here's the thing, like I think all this shit should be fucking demolished. The entire education system, a lot of these institutions that we find ourselves in, the fucking like the work economy and how jobs are and stuff like this. Yeah, it's all shit. But like destroying this and putting like a worse system in its place is not great either. So,
yeah, and also even if you're somebody who doesn't necessarily like the language or the sentiment behind like destroying the entire system, I think, okay, even if you genuinely have some like real legitimate belief in reform or whatever, I think the amount of reform you would need to fix colleges as they are right now is functionally like indistinguishable from just destroying it to begin with. Like the rot has set that deep.
Yes, and here's the thing. I do advocate for completely demolishing this and starting from scratch. Like, I don't think it can be reformed. I don't think there's just a few tweaks here and there that we need to do. You have to completely get rid of it. Like, completely get rid of it. The problem is you have to completely get rid of it with a blueprint in place to reconstruct it. And that's kind of how I feel about all this shit. Is there's two ways we can go. Because this shit is getting fucked either way. It's getting fucked. So
the car is already speeding towards the brick wall. We can't stop the car. We can just fucking jump out of it.
Yeah, right. And it's And like we could do a reconstruction afterwards if we all shape the fuck up and realize what the fuck's going on, or you just sit back and go, oh, Trump bad, and then let them like just put in place like the worst possible replacement for this, which is just that but worse, or that but non-existent, unless you have enough company tokens to go to Wharton and I don't know, like just be shoveled through the good boy society. I don't really know what they have in mind for any of this. PragerU. Just go to PragerU and learn how to be
I don't know.
anti-woke.
I know there was some like big fucking streamer recently that tried to do like a Twitch streamer university thing where you listen to some fucking lectures from like, I don't know, gamer dipshits about like making a lot of money as a Twitch streamer. I'm like, okay, get out of here. I think
my God.
we need to just like the word gooner, I think we need to stop using the word university so liberally. I feel like maybe we need to be a bit more exclusive and bring back some prestige to the term. But again, it's easy to look at a lot of these problems with like the education system and be like, okay, well, that's just like, capitalism and the profit motive or whatever. Yeah, that's why these things suck or whatever. But at the same time, I think, a big reason that this shit is falling apart even faster recently is because there are just like a lot of like really fucking evil people who have like their hands on all of the controls, right? I think it's hard to talk about the current situation in like universities or whatever without looking at how like a lot of this feels like a big fucking backlash to the not even just specifically the whole like pro-Palestine movement across the U.S. or whatever, but kind of like the whole recent history of like student-led protests, like a couple of years ago with like the big Black Lives Matter rally around George Floyd's death, and that was like 2020, 2021, I want to say, whatever. It was a couple of years ago. I feel like, in a lot of ways, there are people who are like deeply invested in the destruction of universities, not just so that they can make a little bit more money, but also so that they can destroy universities as like an institution where like young people can gather and like learn ideas that might be critical of like established bodies of power or whatever. I think there are a lot of people who are like deeply invested in just like rooting out, in the words of fucking Stephen Miller himself, the evils of anti-Americanism, being things learning things that I guess paint the U.S. in a slightly less favorable light by, doing something crazy like reading a fucking history textbook or whatever. All of this is like communist Marxist propaganda now. We live in the new fucking McCarthy era, and I think, we try to have fun with things on this show. We try to, keep it light. We try to keep it mostly around like, laughing at like dumb fucking weirdos or whatever. But I do think we kind of need to talk about the whole fucking like Israel lobby and how, they've just been kind of going into overdrive lately, really cracking down on student protests and like just, pouring a lot of gasoline on the already raging fire of what universities are becoming at the moment.
Yeah, that is a huge part of it. And to your previous point, this whole like universities are liberal and therefore bad. This has been going on way before like BLM or anything like that. But it's certainly reached a head recently with the protests, the pro-Palestine, hey, Israel, maybe stop, killing kids. That's an idea you guys should think about. Type of protests, and it's really funny the response that, because the thing is, a lot of these universities themselves had a shit response to this. One of the reasons, liberals are always like, we understand you're upset, but like, also, can you write a letter to your congressman instead? We don't really like protests. They make us uncomfortable. And it's just disruptive to their business model. They don't want to like deal with any of that. More broadly, a lot of universities are at this point just kind of like investment firms, and like construction.
It's like 4 or 5 different hedge funds wearing a large coat.
Yeah, and like and they're like development firms, and a lot of them are funded by, drum roll please, Israel. So they're just like, oh shit, like guys, can you cut that shit out? Maybe please don't do that. And it's really funny that that the whole Trump squad is against this, because like suddenly they care about Jews in anti-Semitism when it's in the realm of like Israel doing genocides. Then they care about this.
All the most like racist people you've ever met in your entire life are now suddenly very concerned with one specific type of racism that is supposedly everywhere. Like, okay, come on, guys, shut the fuck up. I've seen how you guys talk about Jews like when the mics aren't on. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really. It's really strange, the whole dynamic with all this shit now, and it's just another thing that just makes you, man, wow, how can you believe in any of these institutions when they're so gutless when it comes to fucking anything, like fuck off.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. I remember one of the little details about the protest that really stuck with me was there was like some guy that was funding these like vans or trucks or whatever to drive circles around universities and like broadcast on a big screen on the side of the truck like names and like personal details of students who they deemed like today's anti-Semite of the day or whatever, because like somebody posted something on social media or whatever. And I'm like, wow, it really says something that like the whole university isn't doing anything to protect students from this obvious like fucking flagrant form of like harassment or whatever. It's like, it's just insane what people get away with. And also like, you know, we like to think of universities as like a very liberal place or whatever, but like, I don't know, in my experience, like I look back at all the professors I had in university, and for the most part a lot of them weren't really like that forward about their politics. I guess I remember I had some weird instances. There was like a class that I had to take for a credit once. It was like a women's studies course, but it was like the history of psychology or something like that. And I had a really weird experience where like I took this class for like 3 weeks or something, and it was a really uncomfortable time because I was like the only person in that room who was like not a cis woman or whatever. And I remember we were going over like the course syllabus, and the professor was talking something about like, for the big project at the end of the semester, you need to interview 3 women in your life and ask them about their fucking fucking bleeding time of the month, whatever period cycle. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, I'm gonna not do that. So
the fuck does that have to do with women? Like,
I have no idea. Yeah. It was an insane course. I feel bad that I was there for 3 weeks. I feel extra bad that I didn't ask to go out with the girl with the pretty hair who sat next to me. But regardless, you know, I've had some weird college professors. Like I said, I studied as a fucking fine arts student, so a lot of my professors were like, you know, the kind of like weirdo Gen X, like used to be a hippie, now is just kind of like smokes weed sometime type of person or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, I guess these people are nominally like left leaning in the sense that they'll tell you not to say the word retarded or something like that. But otherwise, like I don't really know how hip they are to modern social issues. So
yeah. I mean, it really depends. I mean, there's a spectrum for sure, but I mean, they just tend to be like not even left leaning, like I'm with her, or like I'm a socialist or something like that. Just kind of like what you would assume, what like a centrist would be if it weren't like for the fact that anybody who calls himself a centrist is actually like massively right wing. It's just like, yeah, I don't like, I'm not a fucking communist, but I also think like, yeah, we shouldn't like let people die if they can't afford a surgery or something like that. Just
I mean,
like
also
basic rational shit.
Also, like, let's not kid ourselves. People don't, by and large, become college professors because they are, like, a deeply devoted fucking, like, ideologue here to, like, spread a message for the cause. A lot of people become college professors because they had dreams of something bigger and they gave up, so they decided to teach about it instead.
Yeah, or they're just good at being, like, academics. And that's for a lot of people, that's kind of the end game for just somebody who's good at academics. If you can't really do anything besides that, a lot of them become professors, which is another problem I have with the whole system. It's just like, you can be really, really good at mathematics or something like that, but why are we having these people teach, like 101 classes with normal people who don't have the same acumen as they do? But that's a bit of a digression.
I mean, there's one thing, right, where it's like, okay, maybe a lot of these people don't really, like, do anything that valuable with their job, but, like, I do think, if I was to, like, snap my fingers and, like, fucking Thanos make a perfect society appear or whatever, I do think, in my ideal vision of universities, there would be people who just, like, devote their life to being an academic or whatever and sharing whatever obscure nuggets of knowledge they've honed over their careers with a bunch of students. And I think, both those professors and those students would do a lot better in that situation if they could just, study because they actually want to be there and not because they have to jump through some hoops to get a fucking, like, certificate or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. And there should be different types of academics who teach the normal kids, and then if you become some like ultra high up academic type, then those people can mentor you. Because, like, I don't know, I've had some like intro level or lower level classes that were clearly taught by somebody who does not want to teach at all. They just want to do research and shit like that, which is fine. But that part is kind of bizarre to me. Like,
I have really distinct memories of one of my college professors who I took, like, multiple art history classes under her, and I remember I kind of hated the, like, 1 and 200 level classes because, like, the room was full of a lot of people who were just there for the credit and they didn't really give a shit. And it was like, oh, the course syllabus was like, we have to cover all this, like, boring fucking material, and it's like, it's not really fun. And, like, the professor was, like, very, like, rote and, like, about everything. It's about, like, okay, do this assignment, blah, 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 write this essay, blah, 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 whatever. But with the same professor, I took another class. It was like a 400 level fucking, like, art history of the Baroque period or something, and, like, this happened to be, like, the subject that she, like, did her fucking, like, master's thesis or whatever in university on. And I could tell, like, she was really fucking into this subject. The whole class was, like, me and, like, 11 other people, and it was legit one of the most fun, engaging, like, interesting fucking courses I've ever taken. Probably the highlight of my entire university career.
That's the thing, is, like, the higher level classes, they tend to be smaller, more focused. Yeah,
they're full of people who actually fucking give a shit and want to be there for the most part.
For sure. And like the intro level shit, it's like somebody else wrote that syllabus. It's like university mandated. It's bullshit. It usually has some, like, dog shit mandatory fucking textbook that costs $175.
I know.
You have to get the new one, not the last edition, because I'll say
this. One of the 100 level art history courses I took with this lady was, like, the history of, like, modern art, and by modern we mean, like, the modern time period, last, like, century or two or whatever. And, like, oh, we had to do the obligatory part of the course where we talk about how the Soviet Union was bad because they cracked down on artists or whatever. I'm like, okay, I agree, that was bad, but also, like, is this really here because it's important, or is this here because, like, we're supposed to, like, learn anti-communist values or whatever? I'm like, okay, I see what's going on.
Yeah, see, we don't need PragerU. Just have a bunch of classes like that. Just jam some jam some a little propaganda.
I mean, we did also talk about how fucking Jackson Pollock was like funded by the feds or whatever to be like a fucking like slop media to get people disinterested in art or some shit like that. But that's regardless. That's besides the point. Fuck Jackson Pollock, by the way. But anyway, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I guess to get back to the broader point, all this shit has been fucked, and it was gonna be fucked either way. I don't know. Like, I have a hard time because like the like Trump and friends and this whole administration and just the entire milieu that we find ourselves in like I don't even want to just like pin all this because it's kind of a Reddit take of like, oh, Trump bad, and the reason everything sucks now is because of Trump, because like that's a very lib take, because like if Trump lost, there would still be like a strong right-wing sentiment in this country. And by the way, everybody, we've talked about this before, but if you're gonna like lay epic flee to Europe, there's a lot of European countries which are going through their little fash wave as well, so you're probably not going to escape that, and also they're probably not going to take you, sorry. But like, I mean, like the thing is, it would not be as blatant, and it would not be happening as fast, but this was gonna happen eventually. I truly believe that, unless of course everybody just became epic woke overnight, and we had like a Bernie Sanders type person in office, and like everybody in the GOP died of ligma, which they all have, but it's lingering right now.
We could build an entire ziggurat for every single individual person who has ever worked at the Heritage Foundation, and things would probably still not be working out great at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. And like that in that bright timeline, which we don't find ourselves in.
No, we don't have enough bricks to build that many ziggurats. That's an absurd idea. It will never happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless
we'd have to get rid of some strip malls in Missouri, and we can't do that. Where are people going to go to get discount shoes for less?
Call that build back ziggurat. That's my economic plan.
This podcast brought to you by Discount Shoes in Stillwater, Missouri.
I was originally gonna riff saying, instead of build back bigger, I was gonna say bigger with a Z, but that sounds a little bit like a word I don't want to say. So.
Yeah. We don't want to get demonetized. Wait, we're not monetized in the first place. What the?
We're big into ziggurats, or as we call them in the biz, No, I'm not gonna say it. Can't make that joke.
No. Yeah, but I mean, like, so everything's collapsing at a fast rate. You could almost say that it's collapsing at an accelerated rate.
It's collapsing as aggressively as Joe Biden's ass cancer. Let's put it that way.
Oh, too soon? I mean, his ass might be fucking just gone by the time we upload this. So
some say that his ass just did that.
Yeah, Corn Pop came back from the grave just to inject him with ass cancer.
Corn pop is actually the medical terminology for the weird mysterious flesh lump down.
Oh.
I'm sorry. We're an hour into recording. I don't know.
Nobody listens this long, so it's fine.
True. We can make all the off-color jokes in this part. I think maybe before we wrap up this very bleak and kind of directionless episode, I wanted to touch on the point. The thing that I really struggle with is, like, this is something I've been thinking a lot about since the election, and I know this is going to sound like a very, like, libs owned, woke, blown the fuck out kind of take here, but I often feel like Did the Chuds win the culture war? Am I just like not really accepting it? I feel like, most of my life I look back on being like a kid and having like my little formative political years or whatever. I remember being on an early version of like funny junk on the internet when I was like 11 years old or something. And like it seemed like, oh, everybody's making these funny little internet memes and jokes about how fucking stupid George W. Bush is. I just kind of like, for most of my life, I always took it for granted that, oh yeah, everybody just thinks like conservatives are like stupid and like fucking weird, like Christo fascists or whatever. No big deal. But like, I don't know. I think, I look at how propaganda has really ramped up ever since like the fucking Gamergate era. And now we're in the like fucking 10th year of 2016 or some shit like that. And I'm like, oh, maybe all the like right-wing propaganda has actually gotten through to people. Maybe the average person is just like significantly more stupid and hateful and like right-wing in general than I previously estimated. And like maybe that's part of why things are this bad right now. And I don't really know what to do or like how to adjust my perspective to figure out like is this, am I right here, or like am I just like dooming out a little bit about all of this?
No, they didn't win the culture war. Like if you think of things on a broad spectrum, I mean, there's been obviously this is like a bit unprecedented, and that's the argument everybody always fucking make. Yeah, I get it. This isn't fucking a different time. It's a different wave of conservatism. Fucking whatever. Like this is all like angst from their end and pushback on a lot of shit. A lot of it is misdirected, but like even with this whole crackdown on everything, anti-woke and whatever, we're still way more progressive as a society now than we were in the fucking Bush era or like before that. And it's like a 2 steps forward, and they're gonna try to push you back like one. And it might be 2 steps, but it's not. We're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna regress into like some like here's the thing. Are they gonna try to make like being trans illegal or something like that? I mean, maybe like that. There's probably gonna be some fucking inconveniences for people, but like, are you gonna not allowed to be gay anymore? I don't see that happening.
I mean, like when I look at the trans thing in particular, right? Like, not to discount how bad like a lot of the legal situations and whatever are. Like, yeah, things are really fucking bad for a lot of people, but also like, we also live in the age of like stupid like fucking exotic ancient kings levels of like luxury and convenience. And it's like, okay, yeah, I guess it's gonna be a lot harder to like transition through a doctor or some shit, but there are literally people who like just fucking like order their like hormones or whatever on the internet and go to like forums to figure out how the fuck to do it. And in spite of like the fucking like social media milieu we live in right now, if you know how to browse the internet, if you know how to go onto like any website that isn't like Facebook or X or like YouTube or something, you can get your hands on a lot of things very easily. And like, they can't outlaw all of that stuff. A lot of the drugs people use for like HRT or whatever are things that have like a million other fucking like medical uses, and like they just can't really like get rid of those. So I don't know. That's just on that particular issue. I guess the broader thing is, I feel like I always need to be brought back down to earth a little bit, because I am extremely fucking online. I feel like my perspective is regularly warped by like the things that I scroll through on the internet and like the weirdos who like I associate with. And don't get me wrong, I love my weirdos, but also like I do think at times, is this affecting how accurately I'm seeing the world? And I think maybe. I don't know. I think I need to just like regularly be reminded that the fucking insane amounts of like right-wing chuddery I see on the internet are hopefully not indicative of like what's actually going on with the average person in society.
And it's not. And I've talked about this before, because unlike the majority of people, who listen to this podcast, and like the majority of people online, I actually talk to actual regular humans once in a while. You should try it.
That must be nice.
Yeah, but no, like they're generally. I mean, people have bad takes and shit, but it's not like it's very rare to like to meet somebody who's just completely insane. And the thing is with those people is like that's usually a lot of times, like my experience with people like that is they're like a weird dude alone at the bar who's just like finds captive audiences to like say his bad takes to, and then people be like finish their drink really quick and it's like, oh, thanks dude, yeah, good talking to you, anyways, bye. And then he probably goes back to like swilling his drink like, oh, fucking another normie who just doesn't understand how bad things are. Where do those people go? They go to like weird Twitter circles and I don't know, like Nick Fuentes fucking chats and whatever fucking weird shit. But anyways,
it needs to
yeah,
be said.
yeah.
It needs to be said, kind of building on what you said earlier about, you know, us living in the most progressive time in history or whatever. It's like in a lot of ways, even the conservatives are a little bit more progressive nowadays. Like it's weird how chill everybody is with like Nick Fuentes having like a weird fucking like cat boy girl femboy something whatever like hooker GF or some shit like that.
Yeah, exactly, and yeah, we're slowly taking steps, folks. We're normalizing.
Also, sorry everybody, I don't know how to respect the pronouns of like the weird internet Nazis like hookup or whatever. I'm sorry, I don't keep up with these people that closely.
It's okay. Nobody cares about that.
I'm just gonna play it safe and use the it's pronouns. I support I support Nick Fuentes' it's femboy. No, I don't. Fuck that person too. Whatever. I don't know where I'm going with this.
But anyways, all right. My last take on this is what you're saying with like the HRT and shit like that. Yeah, like that's the thing is like, yeah, things will be less convenient now, and yeah, there's gonna be a lot of fucking like shitty shit for a lot of people. I mean, some people are getting deported to El Salvador without a trial. And that's like some extreme shit. That's fucked up. But it's probably not going to be you. It's probably not going to be your neighbor and shit like that. And we should still like advocate for these people. But if you think like the Gestapo van is going to drive around like looking for you because you use like they them pronouns, I don't really see that happening. I'm sorry, but as far as just like access to things that we should all have access to without it being a fucking problem, either financially or legally or whatever, well, fucking DIY, baby. That's a punk mindset. Maybe we all need to get into the punk mindset, DIY some shit. Your goodies, the goodies you like to get from China, they're too expensive because Trump's tariffs or whatever. Fucking maybe try to make that shit. I don't know. Get a fucking 3D printer. Get it now because they all come from China too.
I feel really, you know, where my head is at on this stuff is like, I am very online. I feel like maybe my perspective is really skewed in a lot of ways. Maybe, you know, I don't have the regular healthy amount of like social interaction with people like face to face that I would need to be like a well-adjusted person or something. But it is kind of telling about like the rest of society that like the healthiest amount of like social interaction I have every week is like pretending to be an elf for 3 hours and doing math with my friends. But like even then I feel like I'm probably still better off than how like fucking atomized and alienated the average person is. And I look at, you know, like my hobbies or whatever, and one of the things that I really appreciate most about being into like fucking tabletop RPGs is like people in that hobby do actually have this fucking like DIY fucking mentality that you've talked about. I think it's really cool that, you know, a lot of games I'm into are just like a fucking like PDF file that somebody wrote in Google Docs and uploaded to like itch.io for $5, like, okay, maybe it's not got the fucking production values of something that costs a lot more money or whatever, but I feel like I get a lot out of surrounding myself with people who are willing to do like the basic work to make things that we like and, you know, like have nice things in the world. And I think, you know, broadly, I look at the time we live in now, and I think, you know, as all of these systems that we've gotten like unhealthily like attached to are starting to crumble, maybe more people need to like adopt that mindset. You know, okay, universities are going to shit. It can't really do much about the whole student debt thing, although I, you know, fully support everybody protesting to get that shit canceled, and like, you know, don't pay your fucking student debt, whatever. Okay, we don't need the money going towards that. But I guess, you know, in spite of not having universities be a good functional thing, you know, maybe take some fucking initiative. Maybe like make an effort to like educate yourself about a topic. Maybe start reading some books more. Maybe support your local library. Maybe start like a little book club with some cool friends of yours, and please make it about something other than fucking boring ass Marxist literature that you got off of the Vosh Discord or some bullshit like that. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of things people can do to make the best out of the times we live in. Like, okay, we don't really have a choice about how bleak and dreary and exhausting this period of history is, but I also don't think, you know, I think people are too quick to consign themselves to like, well, I guess my life is just gonna be miserable now because I was born in the wrong time period. Like, I don't know, like maybe fucking nut up a little bit and just like build the world that you want to see. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but I also feel like, you know, nobody's gonna fucking come help us out of this, like especially not the fucking like Democratic Party or some bullshit like that.
I mean, the thing is, it's like you know, we talked about treatlers in the last episode, and in some of this discourse is like just like low key treatler shit. It's just like, well, I went to university and they didn't offer me like a high paying job where I could like, you know, support a family off of this income and just kind of like phone it in and like in whatever, like in like, okay, like yeah, sure, like in an ideal society you would be able to do all that, and you know your student loans would be zero if not less than what it is, and like, yeah, through certain points in history for certain people things were better, but like yeah, I don't know, you just gotta navigate shit, right? You gotta navigate shit the best you can, and
you gotta thug it out, honestly.
You gotta thug it out, really. Do not be one of those people who just fucking lays down and rots and cries, cause the thing is, this is not like completely true, but like the MAGA right wing people are not as defeatist as like the average like Twitter leftist who's just like, sigh, I read a thing in the news and it made me sad, so I'm just not gonna leave my bed for 3 days. Like they're fucking deranged, and they're gonna be like trying to say the election was stolen or something, and nobody gives a shit, but still, I mean, I don't know, they haven't given up the fight, at least, maybe
as terrible as their vision for the future is, they actually do believe that all the sick, stupid things they want are actually possible, and they're working towards making that happen. So like, if we can't even rise to the occasion and meet that, then I guess maybe we really are fucked. But yeah, I don't know, that seems like a skill issue based on, you know, some people on our side,
right? And like, I don't know, like kind of how I'm wired, and I think you're the same way, is like I just like when I think things aren't right, I just like I fucking go off about it, like and you know, people can say I'm fucking insane or negative. You're too negative. And it's just like, okay, like, yeah, I'm sorry I ruffled somebody's feathers because like I think we might be able to make a certain thing better, but they don't want to think about it because that would cut into their Netflix.
Yeah, a lot of people prefer like a lot of people prefer the passive pain of languishing in how bad things are right now than accepting like the little bit of pain you would feel from doing the work of improving them, you know?
Right. Exactly. And that's how I feel sometimes when it's just like, oh, if Kamala Harris would have, and we had 4 more years of Democrat, then I wouldn't have to like face this reality now. It's like, man, I don't know. Again, not an accelerationist, but like the Band-Aid's coming off at some point. Like, I don't know. It's either now or later. We're just delaying the inevitable by having just like Democrat, just typical like system, like do nothing party line, you know, like institutional.
To extend the metaphor, you know, we're done with Band-Aids. Now you have to nut up. You have to be the Resident Evil protagonist and just dump like an entire bottle of alcohol on an open gaping wound. That's just what we have to do.
And
it's gonna sting a lot, but we have to do it.
And just pour some gunpowder and sulfur in there too, and light that shit on fire. Fuse it up. Boom.
Just craft a heavy machine gun out of materials in your household right now.
Yeah. All
That's
the games you played, they're gonna help you out. Yeah, you just need 2 pieces of iron, a belt, and a
3D printer.
Yeah, that's it. Boom. It's done. So, yeah, I mean, like, it's gonna be fine if you're not a little bitch about it, but, yeah, I don't know, like, maybe we needed this. Maybe we needed all this shit.
I'll diverge a little bit. I don't think things will be fine, but I think things will be better if you take like a more active role in whatever horrors are about to come before us. I think, you know what, if things really are that bad and we are all gonna die, then I would rather die with a little bit of dignity. I would rather die like knowing that I'm fucking doing something and not just like lying down and waiting for somebody to like stab me with a bayonet or whatever.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. Honestly, nah. It's all just fucking bullshit. It's all silly. It's all silly fucking bullshit with real world consequences, but I don't know. Everybody's been predicting doomsday for the past like 6,000 years, so I don't think it's going to be this one. And if it is, I mean, none of this shit was that good to begin with, so either you die or you become a cool post-apocalyptic person with like a gimp mask and some leather bandoliers.
Yeah, and sit on a fucking like wasteland throne made of the charred, burnt, like nuclear irradiated leftovers of the Funko Pops or whatever.
No, I don't want that. Is there gonna be DoorDash in the post-apocalypse?
There probably will be.
Well, honestly, I don't know. Maybe that. I mean, that would be a pretty fun idea for like a sci-fi story. Like, oh, I have to work DoorDash in the fucking like Mad Max wasteland. That would be pretty cool, actually.
The thing is, the DoorDash, it's not going to be an app because all that functionality is going to be gone. You're going to have to like use like a shortwave radio to call in your order. So some people have too much social anxiety to do that, so they're kind of fucked. And yeah, so I don't know.
I can't believe I delivered this order of like 17 irradiated lizard carcasses, and the person only gave me like 5 Funko Pops for it.
Yeah, they're gonna be complaining on the radio version of Reddit, like, hey, fellow 539.1 listeners, am I the asshole? They were 2 minutes late delivering my lizard kebabs, and I only gave them 2 Funko Pops as a tip. And they got mad. So
yeah, I had a really bad day at my gig job. I'm gonna go like beat my fucking irradiated hunchback like rad mutant roommate with a belt for a few hours to cope.
Oh man, see, war never changes.
Yeah. Or maybe it does change for the worse, and you can subscribe to it for like $7 a month or something.
Yeah, there you go.
This episode brought to you by the IDF, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah,
that.
I don't know. I said we were going to talk a little about Israel, but man, it really is just a fucking bummer. And also, like, fuck those guys. I don't know. If you guys want a take on that, I think these people are, like, modern day Nazis in, like, every way that matters. So, like, fuck them and everything
there's
they
nothing
stand
new
for.
to say about this. I don't feel like talking about Israel. Zionists fucking suck. Israel shouldn't be doing what they're doing. The fact that everybody's, like, afraid to say anything about them, and their PR squad, they're trying, but they're
I think
really
I actually think they've given up. I feel like the year or so after Jan 6th, fucking October 7th rather, it was like they made all those efforts to be like, oh look, we're humanizing the IDF. Look, we have all these squads that like take the semen out of dead bodies so we can have more beautiful Jewish babies.
That was the best one. Just like,
that was
harrowing. Yeah.
That was some fucking Warhammer 40k bullshit, but with like weird like progressive PR or whatever on top of it. I don't know. I was not a fan of that. But also I feel like, I don't know, I don't see much of that anymore. I think they've given up on trying to appear as the good guy. I think they're fine just being the villains now. So like I'm fine talking about them as if they are.
Yeah, fuck them. And if you support them, fuck you too. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, true. And let's talk about some people who we would never say fuck you to. People who are actually very cool and should not be compared to Zionists in any way.
Yeah, you guys are cool and presumably not Zionists. So
you guys are cool. Come to school tomorrow.
yeah. You guys can come to school tomorrow. Wait, no, don't go to school.
Or go to the university before they kick you out and send you to El
come
Salvador.
to PragerU tomorrow. It's gonna be fine.
You come to Twitch Streamer University. We're gonna learn how to make a lot of money.
Yeah, just play Fortnite. All right, here's our dear sweet patrons. We got Nick, Brina, Weasel, Heresy, Nilly, Protagon, Patty, Clam, and Walker. As always, thank all of you dearly for your continued love and support. We hope you specifically liked this episode. If you're not a patron, we hope you like this episode as well, but we care less about you than those people. So
true. Also, to everybody listening, I hope you guys enjoyed the first little YouTube short we put out. There's more of those coming. It was a lot of fun to make. Please gas those the fuck up so that we never have to get real jobs. Thanks so much for listening.
Yeah, for sure. That's I can't do that. Well, I don't know. If Trump opens the mines again, it might be good. I can finally live out my dream of being a coal miner.
Yeah, I want to get all of the diamonds and attack all the spiders or whatever. I don't know what people do in Minecraft these days.
Yeah, I don't know. Never really played it too much.
Yeah.
But,
anyway,
right,
see you guys next week on Minecraft.
Word up, yeah, on Minecraft. Good fight, good night.